everyone, Cheek here with another Transformers review, and today I'll be reviewing the Transformers Commander Class Ultra Magnus. And he is one hunky chunky robot. I have been waiting for him for so long. I was unable to get a hold of him when they first released him because they made way too few than they needed to do. Similar situation with Commander Class Optimus Prime, but it took even longer for me to get him because I had to wait until he came available for pre-order again, and I was able to get in on that pre-order, and then he finally showed up. I do believe I ordered him on TF Source. And he is definitely a step up from the original ones, or the older ones I've had, such as the Siege and Kingdom Ultra Magnuses. Don't get me wrong, both of those are good in their own right, but leave a lot to be desired for an Ultra Magnus. He is pretty cool. I really like this mold. I at one point thought that the Siege Ultra Magnus was really cool, and then when Kingdom Ultra Magnus came out, it's like Kingdom Ultra Magnus is really cool, and now, well, he just blows both of those guys out of the water. I must say that he is a little bulkier in some ways than I would like, and with the way everything's accordioned up here, I will say that it does give me a little bit of anxiety, at least for long term. He does have some nice light piping, very nice light piping indeed. He is very, very big and chonky, and that is another complaint I have, is that his joints are nice and stiff, but in some ways too stiff for his some of the transformation joints. So I will say that that is a little bit annoying. His guns are done in a clear plastic and then just painted. It's like a smoky black and then painted silver and then a white painted handle, or that handle is a separate piece that was pegged in and glued. And same for this gun, but it's slightly different in design. Looks pretty nice. And then he does come with a number of blast effect parts, these two. And then this set of blast effect parts, which I presume are for when he gets blown to pieces, as he does come apart as well. And fortunately, it is not like the cup figure where it's like it's just friction pegs and pop and they come off. This one, it's actually designed to do so like more like a combiner joint, which is really nice. You push down on these red buttons and then that pops his thighs out. But although I have noticed that sometimes it's stronger than the actual mushroom peg it's on, so sometimes that will just come off with the combiner style joint. And then if you do want to take off his arms, you just flip up like that and then pop off. And you can I guess take him into 5 separate parts, at least as far as robot mode's concerned. Anyway, he does come with some other accessories. He comes with rocket launchers, which these do come off. Unfortunately, there is no holes in the back, so you can't just, I don't know, put these on the end if you wanted to, but you can put those in there if you want to be like this. But it'd be awesome if you could do it like that, but unfortunately, no. So maybe if you have a tiny little drill or Dremel or something, you could probably do some custom work for that. His robot mode, if you pull these out just a little bit, you can then open up his chest to reveal his matrix chamber, and it is really cool, nicely done, much more detailed than Optimus's matrix chamber, which is very disappointing to me because his is just a solid color. It's just red, if I remember correctly. Granted, you're not going to be staring at it, but come on, get out of here, get out of there. There we are. And see the back of that, it is just a teal or a lightish metallic blue with silver down there, and it just looks really cool. And then this is the matrix he comes with, and that just sits in there. I do like the spring action feature. That is really cool. And you just then close that back up and rotate that panel down, and then clip that back together, and then you have his chest closed up with the matrix inside. If you don't want that matrix look, obviously you can take the matrix out, because he only has the matrix for, like, I don't know, a very short period of time in the movie. And then for comparison, let's move him back here. Here we have the Kingdom Ultra Magnus, and let's just go ahead and get his limbs straightened up so that we can get a better accurate size difference between these guys. And you can see very significant in size difference. Very significant indeed. And he is somehow feels a little bit chonkier than this guy, because he has less of a booty backpack thing going on. But I will say his lower legs are significantly wider than these. But then again, it could be about the same. It's just that since he's smaller, it doesn't seem as apparent. And obviously no matrix chamber in here, but I would say they're both comparable for the chest right there. Here we have Optimus Prime. I think it's hard to say. I can't remember if they're like next to each other than when he was dying on the table, but I think they're kind of supposed to be the same size, but I don't really think so. I'm not really sure, but you could see how this could arguably be Ultra Magnus in power armor, if you were thinking of this as an armor set rather than a robot built around a cab that doesn't turn into a robot, which is what one of my bigger gripes about this Ultra Magnus. Although you never see the albino Optimus Prime in the cartoon continuity, so for the purpose of the movie and the G1 cartoon, this guy is absolutely perfect. But it does irk me ever so slightly that you don't get the little white cab. But I would not be surprised, I would not put it past Hasbro to re-release Commander Class Optimus Prime as an Ultra Magnus repaint, just to go with Ultra Magnus in the power armor. I am really tempted to a degree to keep this Ultra Magnus just because of the albino Optimus Prime aspect. But I do have the 4-pack for Target on pre-order that does have a miniature, or has a G1 toy style Ultra Magnus cab with it, that I'm thinking of just keeping to have as the little Ultra Magnus albino Optimus Prime that goes in there, and just have them maybe have them displayed together, and then find him another home, someone that maybe can't get a hold of a Commander Class Ultra Magnus or something like that. I guess I could take a nice close up of his face. It looks really nice. I love that silver detail on the face. Looks like he's wearing sunglasses of some kind, but I've always liked that about his eyes. The head, the back of the head is obviously for the light piping, but oh man, this guy is so cool, as I've already mentioned. The colors are relatively plain, but I do love the colors though. Got red on the backpack, and just a lot of blue and red. So I guess you could say he's very patriotic in the sense of red, white, and blue for the United States and all that. Anyway, articulation. The head is on a ball joint and a hinge, and he can look up and down quite a bit. He does have a little bit of wiggly waggly. Head, as shown earlier, can do a full 360. Arms can go out that far, surprisingly, given his giant shoulder pads, but they do have that room for that, which is much appreciated. The arms are on a very stiff ratchet, can do a full 360. Arms can do about 90-degree bend at the elbow. Bicep rotation. Wrist rotation, although that is a little bit tricky given his forearms. And he does have the same articulation as Commander Class Optimus Prime with regards to his hands and fingers. He even has the finger that size just to be able to hold the Matrix. But I do think it's interesting, given how big Ultra Magnus is, that the front finger is actually proportioned properly to the rest of his fingers, whereas in Optimus it looks a little fat. Anyway, waist rotation. It's nice stiff friction. You can do a full 360. Legs can go forward that far on a somewhat soft ratchet, and that does move out of the way. Can go back that far. Does have a thigh rotation. He can do the full splits. Gets about 90-degree bend at the knee, but just a little bit more if you decide to bend a little bit out of a transformation point. And then he, of course, has ankle tiltage. And it's not a huge amount of ankle tiltage, but it is enough and surprising large amount given how wide and boxy his feet are. And while we're on the subject of Ultra Magnus and all that, I am definitely excited to see more of the missing link Ultra Magnus. That might be something that I'll want to pick up eventually, even if the legs aren't really articulated, because that's what he's for. He's here to be the cartoon representation, whereas any missing link / G1 is supposed to be representation of the toys, if they are slightly improved upon. Anyway, I've been rambling enough, so let's get down to transformation. And here is Ultra Magnus in his vehicle mode, and my oh my, it is quite impressive. Quite a big truck mode indeed, although I will say the bulk of it obviously is the trailer. And so obviously that is the major part of his body. The cab is relatively small. Unfortunately, you can't get a whole lot of range of motion with the cab because it just gets in the way. But you do get some, and then you can move it in like that, but I do believe that is more for the robot mode configuration. But unfortunately, this is my biggest gripe with this Ultra Magnus, is it's not really parts forming if you take the cab off, because that's what trucks and trailers do. But that is my biggest concern, is that it's like if you lose the cab, you lose Ultra Magnus, at least the main important body part, the torso, most of the torso of him. But I love the way that it unfolds, that his body just unfolds into the trailer like this, the car carrier configuration. I will say it is a little wibbly trying to get to line up just right and to stay that way, but oh man, it is so cool. I will say one thing that I did forget to do when I turned him back into robot mode for this video is I forgot to put these back in the proper position, which is like that, because I was like, wait a minute, I'm trying to pull them down, why aren't they coming down? Because they're already down. Anyway, yeah, this, and another gripe, it's a minor gripe, but I guess it's not a huge one considering that it still sits relatively flat, is that there is no things to come out for if you decide to take the trailer off. But the cab on its own is okay. It turns out the red bumper is cartoon accurate, which is really nice. Not sure about the rest of this. Another thing I do like, I didn't notice the first few times I had them, but this little backing right there is designed to slot just perfectly on the sides of his face. It's very interesting. It does feel, like I said, a bit wibbly and all that. It just says it's thin, and I understand why. It's because they have to make it fit into that chest cavity area. So, of course, the cab is going to feel a little bit weak when compared, when just looked at on its own. But I do like that all the wheels on Ultramax, all of them are pinned in, so that's really nice. Unfortunately, he doesn't roll the best. He just slides. But, oh man, but it is leaps and bounds above Earthrise, minus the thing about the cab just popping off. Although Earthrise isn't much better, or it's not any better at all, really, other than the fact that the cab stays on here quite solidly. But man, this just has not aged well at all, because you can't even load anything up into this. It's just a bad frame. And also you can see combined head right there. Although the plus side of this guy, like I said, is, you know, has a little robot inside. But yeah, still really cool. Love this guy, and I'm glad I finally got a hold of him. And another thing you can do, obviously, is put down the loading ramp, so you can put little car bots inside. For example, let's just take Little Kingdom Bumblebee, so he can go in there. Pretty much any of the Deluxes should be able to fit in here. I don't really think any Voyagers really would, but definitely any Deluxes. And another thing you can do, although considering, like I said, how wibbly this whole thing is you can untab this and then ratchet the shoulders down. So you can then do a loading of the top part of Ultra Magnus. So that's pretty cool. And then now, of course, obviously you'd probably just have it displayed like this if you were going to do that at all, because if you're doing it just to load them up, just to then put it back up, that makes no sense, as you can just, you know, obviously set any car bot up there to sit on the vehicle mode. But it's still a nice little display option if you so desire. But now, like I said, with it being so wibbly, for whatever reason, don't know why, maybe it's, let's go ahead and get that hand rotated. Looks like maybe the hand was getting in the way, but just moving it around just a little bit then causes a bunch of things to pop out of place. So yeah, and that is another thing, is, like I said, it's wibbly, but I do like the way it looks. Once you get everything lined up perfectly, it looks amazing. Anyway, let's go ahead and get the back closed up. Go ahead and get the trailer back on. And one more very important comparison. Commander Class Optimus Prime. Let's move the camera back. And they look pretty good together. I will say the scale is definitely a bit off. The trailers, I think, are probably in decent scale with each other. Although I think Ultra Magnus's trailer, if you were properly in scale for truck mode, would be a little bit longer, probably. But they look decent enough together in their vehicle modes, especially if you say, I don't know, have Commander Class Optimus Prime off in the back in the distance, and then have Ultra Magnus in the front, and now they actually look like they're pretty well in scale with each other. So they look pretty, I mean, they look really nice. I think it's really impressive that they managed to get the two cabs to be relatively close together in scale. I mean, obviously they're not perfect. Obviously Optimus hangs out a significant margin back there, but obviously they couldn't get Ultra Magnus to transform properly if he was a full self-contained robot. But I appreciate what they were able to do with what they had, and it just looks so cool. So that's about it for Transformers Studio Series 86 Commander Class Ultra Magnus. He is a perfect upgrade for the to replace Kingdom Ultra Magnus in your collection, especially if you are collecting the majority of the 86 movie action figures. I am very satisfied with this guy, and I highly recommend him. Anyway, if you liked this review and you'd like to see more, please click that like and subscribe button to see more. And until next time, have a good one, everyone.